Casa, and today I will be addressing some misinformation that I have spread for like the past 2 years. Well, depending on, yeah, whatever. So I have like four examples of things that I have said online that I'm like, well, that wasn't exactly correct. And for that reason, I still get comments and it sort of like irks me, but then I'm like, I am the one in the wrong. Fine, I am the one in the wrong. So today I will be discussing in depth because part of the reason why I think I was spread, okay, I have to be humble and honestly say I was spreading misinformation. There is no if, what, buts about it. I was spreading misinformation. Okay, part of the reason why I spread misinformation is because it's like short little TikToks and I don't get to like expand on the fact that I know that there are nuances on the topic that I am discussing. So the first example is challengers. I have a video where I said, hey, between the blonde and the brunette, how come that baby that the lady had is that baby is a brunette? I was never arguing that the baby was supposed to be a blonde. Okay? Okay, wait, let me explain it better. There is a movie called Challengers with Zendaya and then two white dudes. I don't remember their names. And Zendaya is in like a love triangle with the two dudes. One of them is a blonde, and I'm gonna assume he's a natural blonde because he was a blonde when he was a teenager, and he's still a blonde in like the future or like 2025, whenever the present is. Like he has stayed blonde, and for the most part, men are not known for dyeing their hair blonde. That's like their form of colorism. So like men too tend to like embrace having darker colored hair. So Zendaya was in a love triangle with a blonde, and then she was in a love triangle with a darker brunette. That baby that she had with the blonde, because she got married to the blonde, is a darker brunette than her, because she's also a brunette. But her brunette is like a lighter brunette than the guy that she's with. So I'm looking at the baby and I'm going, so you want to convince me that that's his baby when that baby is a darker brunette than the mama? Where the hell did this darker brunette come from? And that's the thing. I didn't bring up the fact that sometimes genetics will skip a generation and or you will inherit a direct trait from your grandparent. So like she could have darker colored hair because her grandparents have darker colored hair and she could still be fathered by the blonde. But the probability that you see how I have to like explain through the grandparent, like I have to explain how that blonde has this darker brunette baby. I was never arguing that the baby was supposed to be a blonde. I was never arguing that. But I did bring up the wrong term. I said, so I haven't been in biology for a couple of years. True. And I remember the Punnett square and blah, 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 blah. And it's because they would explain if there's a capital B, then the baby's going to have dark hair. And if there's lowercase b, both of them are lowercase b's, then they're going to be a blonde. But in my mind, I always thought two capital B's means black or dark brunette. A capital B and a lowercase b means a brown hair, which is still a brunette, but like it's a lighter color. I have always seen a capital B lowercase b as a brown, whereas double capital B is black or like dark brunette, and then lowercase b would be blonde. That's not how that works though, but that's how I've always rationalized it. And because I came online and said Punnett square, blah, 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 blah. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong. But at the end of the day, I was still actually technically right because in this case, it's not about the baby being a brunette or not, which was never what I was arguing. I always thought the baby was going to end up being a brunette. The baby could have been blonde, but I wouldn't have cared about that. The point is that baby is a darker brunette than the mama. Where is the baby getting that dark brunette hair from? And this is where the proper term is polygenetics. That actually might be the wrong term. Oops, I forgot to double check. I'm going to start double checking from now on, I promise. But the polygenetics of a child, or like the polygenetics of melanin. So when a black baby, or no, when a black person and a white person have a baby, is the baby either or shade? No, the baby tends to be an in-between shade. That's melanin. There's melanin in your hair. The color of your hair, yes, has to do with, oh, are you going to be a brunette or a blonde? The capital B's, lowercase b's, yes, but then there's also polygenetics that goes into like what variation of melanin are you going to have? So if you throw blonde into the mix, so that's lower melanin, you still have the same amount of melanin sites, but it's low melanin. You throw blonde into the genetic mix, and then you throw brunette into the genetic mix, and somehow that baby comes out with a darker brunette. That is possible. Anything is possible in genetics. Genetics is a matter of probability. What I'm saying is that I'm looking at the love triangle that she was in with a darker brunette, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, well, that would make more probable sense that the person with the darker brunette hair would father the child with the dark brunette hair instead of the blonde. But no, y'all were like, no, you like anything can happen. I know that. I'm just saying, what are the probabilities? Come on now. And because the whole story was about a love triangle, am I really being that crazy? And then actually, this should have been the core of my argument. It's the fact that they disappeared in Atlanta 8 years before that baby was born. She was a newlywed. She saw her ex. She was talking to him in the cafe. Then they run off. Run off to do what? I personally think they hooked up and she got pregnant, but because she's a newlywed, she was also hooking up with her husband. So he's going, well, anything is possible because that's how genetics work. But because I use the wrong terms, people are calling me wrong, and I am wrong. But actually, this is my problematic trait. I'm gonna be right. I'm gonna get points regardless. Okay, so I got the wrong answer, but I showed my work. And for that reason, you will be giving me a half point or something. I'm not walking out here with nothing. I'm getting something. I was right. I was right on that account. But yeah, I used the wrong language. I brought up Punnett squares. Punnett squares is not the right term. Polygenetics is the right term. Polygenetics of melanin and how you get like an in between. And this is the thing. You can also get either or. And then you can even get you can even inherit traits from your grandparents directly because it's in your parents' genetic makeup. And um, this is where I wanted to also bring up the concept of like passing because I think of like I'm black in America, so I know about like white passing black people. But I think a lot of people don't realize that the reason why it was still a risk to try to assimilate into whiteness is because if you have a child, I mean, the probability of you being a white passing person, marrying a white person, what are the probabilities that your child is going to come out with Afro features? Low, but it's not zero. Why? Because genetic probabilities. Hello, genetic probabilities. And then I also wanted to bring up the fact that like because like genetics is like it will do whatever. Um, they're like it almost slips into eugenics. So like I try to be careful about it, but like sometimes I've seen celebrities and I'm just like, I'm not surprised that you have like a dormant gene or like a gene that was passed down, but it wasn't present. And now it just like just shows itself out of nowhere. And examples of this is like Taylor Lautner. I remember thinking Taylor Lautner was a native kid. He was passing for white. He on his paperwork he was white. I remember when it was a big deal. They were like he's a white dude playing a native role. He stole a native role from a person of color. And I'm looking at Taylor Lautner and I'm like, well, that's not a white man. But it on paper it's a white man, but then also he was in Scream Queen and he played a biracial person. He was black and white hair, he was a black and white heritage. And I remember going, so I know you look POC, but you're not black. But I think a white passing black person could like theoretically look like you. Genetics will do whatever. And also, race is a social construct. Race is not real. We just made some arbitrary rules to be able to define race. But yeah, I also think of Rashida Johnson. She plays Ann Perkins in Parks and Recs. I love the fact that for whatever reason, some people do not clock that she is a woman of color. Like, I mean, I see her, but then like her skin, like her color, like some. There was an interview. They were like, "How do you keep your tan?" And she was like, "I don't know. I was born with it because that's not a tan. That's melanin. That's how she was born into the world." But yeah, she's a white passing black person. So sometimes people can't clock that that's not a tan. That's literally her melanin. And then the actor for him, Tyreek Withers, I thought he was a white boy because the first time I had ever seen him was in Atlanta when he was white passing, but like also it was in black and white. So I think had I seen his color, I would have been like, oh, okay, like you just have white features, but you're part black. Like you are black. You are part of our community. You're just a white passing black person, right? So I saw him in Atlanta. I was like, oh, this white boy just said the N-word. Oh, he's not a white boy. I had no idea. I only found out because of the movie Him when he was doing promotion, and I went, oh, wait a minute. And then it's like my eyes, like something fell off my eyes. Like there were lenses that came off, and I was like, oh my God, wait, you're black. Oh my God. I was like, oh, okay. So sometimes even I can't clock it, but also they literally did that on purpose where they put it in black and white. And then I would even say Haley Steinfeld has been a pet peeve. I think Haley Steinfeld, if you were to call her a white woman, I would not correct you. She has black descent, and the role that she played in Sinners was a white passing black woman. So when people call her character, what, Mary? When they call her a white girl, I'm like, that's not a white girl. That's you can say a white passing black person, and I understand that that's a lot of phrases to say, but let's like, can we be legitimate? That's not, she's not white. She didn't grow up white. She didn't have the privilege of being white up until recently. And in fact, that was even something that they brought up in the movie. They're like, do you know what would happen if they see you talking to me? What if somebody starts asking questions about me? Why are you hanging out with a bunch of black people? You are jeopardizing your adjacency to blackness. But then also, had she had a child, and because genetics will do anything, and honestly, if the genetics decided to go all the way back to her like monoracial black heritage or whatever, and then directly birth that kid, all of a sudden her white husband, is looking at the baby going, you cheated on me, but she didn't cheat on you. Oh, now you have to bring up the fact that you're of black descent. Y'all not ready for that conversation because it's a racist America. Anyways, this is what I also think about. Oh, on the topic of race is a social construct and it's not real. I almost want to be problematic and say I don't see Asian people and Europeans as like separate, like they don't look different. That's me being problematic, but like at this point, I've decided to see it as Eurasia. But then also because I'm African, right? I understand that West Africans and East Africans and South Africans and Northern Africans do not look the same, but we all look African, right? And I bring this up to say Bjork is not an Asian woman, but right, because race is a social construct. And then also, I don't really want to discuss like why do these features show up? Pretty much every feature that you have, like if a people group has lived in a region, you guys will evolve or adapt to better suit that environment. So there's a reason why she looks like that. I think it's the same reason why like people who live in like the snow have like heavier or hooded eyes because they need the exactly. It's like eugenics, but like like the Inuit glasses and how they're slim. It helps with being able to process light and be able to like see your environment so that you can survive. So that's why some people end up with hooded eyes. I don't know why I have hooded eyes. I have hooded eyes? The jury's all it's the jury's out on that one. Yeah, the jury's out on that one. But yes, challengers. And I still get comments about it where they're just like where they're like telling me, well, I have this feature and it came from blah blah blah. I'm like, I actually don't care. You don't have to tell me why you have features because I know that genetics will do anything. And also, I have some comments that are like, well, we can tell you haven't been in biology class. Well, I'm right. I just used the wrong term. I would have failed the test, but if I showed my work, my teacher would have known that I know. I just have to refresh. And I did refresh on it. I was right. I was right. I was right, but I was wrong. I was spreading misinformation. Actually, that one might not. No, okay. The last point that I had about the challengers was actually medical racism. I was watching a clip from I think paternity court, and these two they were like Afro Latinos, and they had a baby, and the baby came out light, and the doctor said, hey, you might want to get a DNA test, and I was like, oh, that's medical racism. I think because Tashi in the TV show, not TV show, the movie Challengers, is a black woman, technically throwing out, hey, like, what's the paternity of this baby is anti-black. And in fact, because genetics can do anything, it is very anti-black to like look at a black person or like look at a child who does not have the more probable genetic makeup of like the two parents and automatically assume someone is cheating. This is infidelity being involved because of a black woman, or even like so like throw it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like there are some white passing like black children who have a black father and they're white passing, and then they're looking at the black father like, oh, you're a cuckold or whatever. And like it's just weird. Like it is definitely medical racism. And I would even say that I was participating in some level of eugenics and medical racism by going, that baby's hair color is not right, knowing that the probabilities could be whatever. But I would like to also add that the whole point of the movie was a love triangle. I think it was well in my right to go, whose baby is that? When you've been messing around with two niggas. Are you gonna shut me down? I'm sorry. They were not black men, by the way. So let me take that back. You were messing around with two men. I think I'm allowed to bring that up because that was part of the plot. But had it been some regular girl that I don't know anything about, and I'm looking at the baby and I'm looking at the daddy being blonde, I would have minded my business because I'm not in your business. I don't know. I don't know about the third. I don't know about the third man. But also, if there was a third man, who am I to say anything? I'm bringing this up because there's a love triangle already. Why not make the plot thicker? Okay, now the next point is my video about M'Baku, where I was just like, I don't think he's a vegetarian because his body. And actually, it was my last point because there was a part of me that was like, that's not right. But I still said it knowing that that's not exactly right. But I was like, how are the Jabari tribe vegetarians when they are built like that? That was wrong. And then some people were also saying that I think he was just saying his family specifically were vegetarians, but this is where I want to like bring up the concept of I thought that in the case of like human diet, there's only carbs, lipids, and proteins, and the carbs go into energy to burn, the lipids go into stored energy, and then the protein is what builds your muscles. However, that's not the case because like the body is there's details, and I'm not a doctor. I should have started with that. I'm not a doctor, and anything could happen. Well, that's not true. There is a science, but because I didn't take that class, who am I to know? But then I also wanted to bring up, they said, some people were saying, well, the Jabari tribe is, was modeled after gorillas, and gorillas are for the most part herbivores and then herbivores. And then the only protein that they eat is like bugs and insects. And how technically if they're primarily herbivores and they're built like that, well, how does that happen? There has to be like a science of how like our bodies convert different types of like food that we intake into different like proteins, or because there are proteins in some vegetables like beans and tofu or whatever. But then also part of the reason why I was like, I'm pretty adamant, like I'm right, but like bringing up, hey, his body type is built off of protein, that's not right because I'm not a dietitian. I wouldn't know. But like specifically the reason why I was like, that doesn't make sense for them to be vegetarians is that they live up in a snowy mountain. They can't grow food. So what would they be trading? If they're herders, if they're herding animals, then they would have a primarily animal diet because most people who live in snowy, rocky areas have a animal diet. But like again, it feels like you're just going out of your way to not go with because like this is actually what I think I just said it, where it's like our bodies are designed based on the environment that we live on and the resources that we have. You live on a mountain and it's snowy. You can't grow anything there, but you can herd a lot of animals. And then also the Jabari tribe wears like a lot of like animal skins and furs. So you're wearing the skins, you're wearing the furs, but you won't eat the meat. That just doesn't sound logical. But I also know like they said vegetarian, not vegan. And I understand that, but it just seems sort of kind of irrational. Might as well use the whole animal. But I will say the concept of, okay, we herd animals, we skin them, we wear their skins, and then we sell the meat, and then we trade the meat for the vegetables that we can eat. That is a possibility. But like the same way where I said, hey, the way that you have to like maneuver to get to the grandparents, most like it is like human nature that we, or no, it's just nature in general. You take the path of least resistance. Why would I go all the way, blah, blah, blah? And I mean, yes, you're going to need to eat vegetables, like the human body needs vegetables. But what I'm saying is the concept of cutting out animal or like animal products when you're already using animal products does not make sense. But also it might have been like a religious situation. And it also could have been specifically about M'Baku's family, like his children, him, that were only vegetarians. And then the rest of the tribe can do whatever. I don't know. I just remember looking at that. I was like, no, there's a bit of a dissonance in that. I'm seeing you wear animal skin. You live in a mountainy, snowy area. Like, that doesn't particularly make sense for your environment, and our diets are informed by our environment. But the part about, hey, the body, that's wrong, especially since I was recently thinking about cows and how cows are on like a strictly like grass or wheat or like some type of grain diet and they're fat. So where did the lipids come from? Because I'm pretty sure grasses have lipids, but enough lipids to build the body. There has to be something going on with the anatomy of different animals, and we're animals. Humans are a type of animal. There has to be something going on with our anatomy where we can process food and like convert it from a carb to a lipid to a protein or whatever. But again, not a scientist, not a biologist, not a dietitian. I don't know. And then also the concept of like some people react to different foods differently. Like I can eat certain foods, I won't gain weight, but like if we eat the same meal, you might gain weight or you might gain more protein out of it based on how your body processes the food. And that's going to be different from person to person. And it probably is like a reflection of like the type of environment or the type of family that you live in. But like for the most part, it varies from person to person. And I acknowledge that. So that was misinformation. I would only take out the part about the body type or like his body type is built off of protein. I don't know what's going on. And then also someone was like, "Oh, the soil in Rwanda, Wakanda could be like different where like they have very vitamin rich because of the vibranium. So maybe they are able to grow in the mountain." Again, this is also a fantasy. Like this is not real. I think that's also something that really does piss me off. I have like a lot of free time, so I know it's not that important, but like I like to make sure that it makes logical sense. Like it would be able to fit with like the logical laws of nature and physics, whatever. Like it would make sense like if we were to actually sit down and try to describe all the fundamental factors that need to make this a reality, it would be feasible. But I know it's not. It's fantasy one, and I know it's not real and it's not serious. But I do also, again, back to like say, hey, like some things are like eugenics, and I have to be careful. I think throwing out the concept of like, oh, you need to eat this certain type of thing for your body to look like blah blah blah. No, your body is different. It's different for every person. You just need to study your own body. And I think spreading that type of misinformation about this body is built off of protein. Where is he getting the protein? I don't know his body. I'm not his doctor. I don't know. I'm not even a doctor. I am not any credible source on this. I am not a credible source. Okay. And then another thing that I was like, I'm going to have to like really check myself on this one was bones. And I was discussing how like this lady, oh, well, okay. Another thing that I want to be like a bit more careful about, like, I don't know if this is misinformation, but it's something that I was reflecting on, was the concept of anti-intellectualism, but like in a way where it's like you can intellectualize opinions, and opinions and facts are not the same thing. So you cannot start treating your opinion like a fact just because you can intellectualize it. And this was onset by the TV show Bones, and how she would have an opinion or like she would have an observation and she would go, well, no, I'm right because blah 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 this, and then she would like throw her archaeology facts and then be able to like agree towards like racist ideology. I saw it for black people. I think I saw it for like Latino people and then like native people. I was like, hey, that's a red flag, girl. Like can you like rationalize the fact that you don't have to, like you cannot rationalize every opinion and then treat it like a fact. That's problematic. But then because we are like sort of kind of in this era of like we're trying to fight anti-intellectualism, I was like, I think there is another form of anti-intellectualism, which is like pseudo-intellectualism, where it's like I am able to throw a bunch of facts together and make it sound like this opinion and or this false information is fact based on the other facts around it. And then the concept of a kernel of truth and then like a bunch of lies. And that's actually the best way that lies can get to you, is if like you throw a kernel of truth into the mix and then you get it wrapped up and connected to all these lies. And this is something that I'm reflecting on because it's like I am someone I go off vibes. I barely ever double check what I'm saying because if I hear it once, then it sticks in my brain and it must be fact. And because I'm smart enough to intellectualize opinions and anything that comes into my mind, and because I'm also woo woo in astrology and everything is connected, blah blah blah, that can be dangerous, especially since we're slipping into some weird era where like I literally have just like brought up two examples of like, hey, if I went too deep into that, that would end up in eugenics. Also, hello, I have my phone like this, so I'm not capable of reading comments just yet, but I think next time I go live, I'll bring my laptop so that I can check the comments. So if you're saying anything, I'm so sorry I can't see you, but I will read it after. But yeah, real intellectuals know that they are not always right and that there is information that they will not know at the time. And that's where I'm like, I want to be a real intellectual. I want to be a real smart person. So I need to be like comfortable in the fact that sometimes I'm going to be wrong. But the problem is that I'm already a loud person. So for me, I'm like, I can't even jeopardize or I can't even consider the concept of me being loud and wrong. But that's going to happen because I love to talk and because I want to be a real intellectual. There are going to be times when I am wrong. There are going to be times where I don't know anything. And I have to get comfortable with that, because if I'm not comfortable with that, then I'm going to end up in an echo chamber. And though echo chambers have been coming up in like motifs and like things that I reflect on, because echo chamber has to do with narcissism. Like, I think when we say echo chamber, I don't think people realize it's like a narcissist will put themselves in an echo chamber because the echo chamber, the echo of the narcissist is in love with them and they want to repeat everything that they say. But yeah, I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I want to be a real intellectual. I have to challenge the fact that sometimes I'm going to be loud and wrong. Sometimes I'm going to be wrong. Sometimes something that I want to be right is not going to be right. And I'm just going to have to accept it and pivot my information and my knowledge. And I don't like it. But I also just don't want to be like that, like to be adamant that that's not something that I want would be dangerous. And that's like, I don't want to be a dangerous person. But then also, because I've been reflecting on this, I am thinking of like the first time where I was like, oh, I guess I've spread misinformation and I wasn't really taking it well, where I had this video about Obama and Pink Panthers, where I was like, where I was like, Obama and Pink Panthers are related, blah blah blah, or something like that. And this is where I just want to like course correct and say they are from the same tribe. I'm from Kenya. They are from the same tribe. But because I'm from Kenya, I have my own tribe, so I also know that there's more nuance and details about that. You have like a you have a tribe, then you have a sub-tribe, then you have a clan, and then you have a family. Not everyone is related just because they're from the same tribe. Well, technically, yes, we would probably have a common ancestor, true. But we are not like, I'm not trying to like throw some like, oh my God, like this is some government psyop. Pink Panthers, she's FBI or whatever. That would actually be really fun. I think that's the thing. I don't want to ever on purpose spread. I don't want to ever on purpose spread disinformation, which is when I intentionally know something is wrong and I still say it. And for that reason, I will always come back and course correct and be be responsible with the words that I say. And when I find out that I'm wrong, I want to be humble. Like, this is me truly trying to be humble, and I'm not even doing the best, but like that is also something to be in a constant practice of humility, that I can be wrong. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I don't want to spread misinformation. Disinformation is dangerous. And I don't want to get into practice of just deciding that I'm always right and I can never be wrong, because that is dangerous. So I think those are like my 4 things that I have been reflecting on. And I still see the comments and they sometimes still bug me, but it's okay because I was wrong. So I have to like take the lashings, and that's it. I don't know. There's probably more. I can't that These are like my top 4 that I remember, or like I still get comments about. So yay. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hello. I'm about to end this, but you can totally rewatch it because I think I did a good job. I don't know. Bye. Now, how do I leave? Oh, wait. Before I leave, make sure to like and subscribe and comment. You should follow me on TikTok, Instagram. Here, I have a Substack, and I will be reading all the comments. I may not comment back or like them, but I do read all the comments. Okay.